A few years ago, you couldn't talk about at-home fitness without the word Peloton coming up in the conversation. That's because Peloton was a whole revolution. The company seemingly popped up out of nowhere at the right time and got so successful that it made its way to an unbelievable $607 million revenue. But if you think about it right now, it'll just feel like a distant memory, even though it wasn't. In this video, we're going to be talking about the insane rise and fall of Peloton. The company first began with an idea John Foley had. Well, it was less of an idea and more of a problem. He was tired of going to the gym. Don't get us wrong, he didn't hate working out, he just didn't like traveling to the gym and coming back. It was too time-consuming, and whatever motivation he'd have at the start about going to work out, by the time he made it to the gym, it would dissipate by at least half. Honestly, who hasn't felt that same feeling, right? Plus, the drive or walk back home makes it an even more time-consuming activity. When you're only spending 45 minutes working out, why should the process take a grueling 3 hours to complete? It's something that actually keeps a lot of people out of the gym. But John thought, what if it didn't have to be that way? That became the basis of Peloton, finding a way to have effective workouts without any of the travel time. Now yes, treadmills and exercise bikes, they've existed for decades, but Peloton didn't set out to be just another company that just wanted to create regular exercise equipment. They wanted to change the game, do something that would bring the experience of working out in a class, the music pumping, or being out in nature itself to someone's home. The idea first came to John in 2012, and he, along with co-founders Hisao Kushi, Tom Cortese, Graham Stanton, and Yoni Feng, started the journey. They raised $400,000 in seed money and then another $3.5 million in February and December 2012. Overall, that was enough money to get started, so they created a few prototypes. But the problem was they were all a little unsightly. So while they had the initial funding, no major investor wanted to back them up long term. They made proposal after proposal, and all they got were thousands of rejections. There were more roadblocks than they had expected. The company was difficult to set up, the equipment was hard to make, and things had taken an unexpectedly slow turn, but the founders were determined. They wanted to make it happen. So they tried the next best thing, crowdfunding. They put Peloton bikes on Kickstarter in 2013. Anyone could book one and get it at an early bird price of $1,500. It was a lucrative price. You'd get a high-quality exercise machine with an immersive screen that could take you anywhere in the world without having to go anywhere at all. Soon word got out and people got excited, and with that, the demand grew. In 2014, they were working with $10.5 million and a pretty steady demand. After the initial early bird bikes, they were able to sell them for $2,000 each. It was far more than any other exercise bike that was on the market at that time. During the next 4 years, demand kept growing slowly. By 2018, they had a whopping $550 million in venture capital funding at a valuation of $4.1 billion. Things were progressing as they had hoped, but then cut to 2020 and the world was under lockdown. The pandemic brought the entire world's population to a standstill. And that standstill came with a problem though. With all of the time spent indoors and activity going down to a minimum, people were starting to gain weight. The weight that they couldn't really figure out a way to lose unless they could get back into the environment of workout classes. Soon, the demand for Pelotons shot up. Everyone wanted one for themselves. I mean, what's better than having an exercise machine where you can feel like you're out in the real world? The turnaround was insane. More and more people wanted bikes and treadmills every single day, and the price shot up, almost doubling within weeks. It was crazy, especially because John and the other co-founders didn't even think about something like this happening. I mean, no one did. No one saw a complete worldwide lockdown coming. It was unheard of. Yet for Peloton, it was kind of like a blessing in disguise. While their products were doing all right for a while at that point, the success they had just gotten to was something totally out of the ordinary. But it was also an opportunity. It was time that they took the business model that had gotten them this far and decided to tweak it. The idea now was to really leverage the concept of getting that workout in a gym experience at home. And so they came up with the next best thing, subscription plans. Subscription plans have long been the key to making money for companies. They'd sell you a product for cheap, but then add in an expensive subscription plan that you'd just have to keep up with. At that point, they do nothing, and with thousands and thousands of buyers across the globe, that's just extra money racking in. They came out with subscription after subscription. So many plans to choose from, and with bored people all over the world just looking for something new to do, the money was just flowing in. Throughout the early pandemic, Peloton was one of the most successful companies overall. Spin classes got bigger online, workouts were starting to be different, and eventually there was no denying it. There was a Peloton everywhere you could see. With that much success, the company was quite literally at the top. You'd think that a company that managed to get all the way up there would know the way to stay there too, but if that were the case, you'd be hearing about Pelotons the same way today. So what happened? Well, what goes up must come down, right? That's pretty much how things panned out with Peloton too. While the sudden pandemic and lockdowns gave Peloton the success they so badly needed, they forgot that eventually when the world opened back up, people might not want to stay cooped up in their homes. They might actually want to go outside, experience life firsthand, considering no one was really able to do that for close to 2 years. At first, Peloton wasn't really worried. They thought they had a strong enough business model that no matter how active people wanted to get, that core problem of traveling to the gym, wasting all that time just to get an under-hour workout, was going to hold up. To a certain extent, they were right about it too. However, then something totally unexpected happened. In March of 2021, a child got into an accident involving one of their machines, and the injuries were fatal. Suddenly, the tables turned. Peloton went from being the company everyone supported and wanted in their own home to one that most people with children didn't want anything to do with. It makes sense, too. No parent wants to even imagine their child being in danger. A few fun and convenient workouts aren't anywhere near the safety of one's child. As fast as that demand surged, it began to drop. And not only was this a decision the people made on their own, the Consumer's Product Safety Commission also got involved. They advised people to stop using the treadmills for the time being, which just added to the whole situation even further, keeping even more people away from the machines. What's worse is that the commission even advised Peloton to recall all of their bikes, all of them, just in case there would ever be an issue with them. But Peloton was treating this situation as more of a user error type of deal rather than something that they should have probably been more vocal about. Some of the Tread and Tread Plus machines were recalled, but as for the others, they just issued a statement saying to keep your pets and children away from the machines at all times for their safety. The other products stayed where they were, but the problem was that now there weren't that many buyers. People were freaked out enough to not want the machines anymore. At first, the founders at Peloton thought that maybe it was a price issue. It was easier to justify spending over $1,000 at the peak of the pandemic because it was literally going to be an investment you'd make for your health. There was no gym access, so there was also that in the cost benefit anyway. However, with the pandemic over, the gyms opened and the outdoors ready to explore, people weren't as keen on spending that much on the machines Peloton was selling. So they thought that they could just remedy that problem by slashing the prices. Everyone loves a good sale, don't they? So who would be able to resist a massive $400 off their purchase? That's enough to put most price tags into perspective, isn't it? Well, maybe, but not in this case. By August of 2021, there was a 35% plunge in the overall market share. Over the next 6 months, the stock fell further and further to the point that the company had to start laying people off, 2,800 of them to be exact. One of the most surprising turns here, though, was the fact that John Foley, the brains behind the whole operation, stepped down from his position as CEO too. John would be replaced by Spotify CFO Barry McCarthy. According to the few remaining investors the company still had, the entire operation had simply gotten too big, too complex, and too damaged for Mr. Foley to lead it. It was clear that damage control was underway, but was kicking the literal CEO off the board the best way to go? Well, there are instances where a step like this does work. Bringing in someone that's a lot more experienced at running a company through a massive debacle like this might just work out, but usually it also shakes the public's trust. John was the face of the company from the get-go. Replacing him suddenly with someone else, especially someone that we've known in a totally different industry, might not resonate with people the way they think it might. But there's probably a good reason there too. You see, just being potentially dangerous and the end of the pandemic weren't the only causes of Peloton's downfall. There was other stuff too. For starters, they tried to license a lot of music. At the time, it made sense because if you have virtual spin classes with your own music and beat, you can create a whole workout that no one else would be able to replicate the same workouts the same way. The least they'd have to do is switch up the music, and have you ever tried to do your favorite dance routine without the tunes that it goes with? Pretty much a disaster. So Peloton was betting on that. They wanted people to be so addicted to their licensed music that they'd have to stay subscribed, and with it would keep making the company more and more money. That didn't really happen though, and the money pretty much went down the drain there. Having the CFO of Spotify join in might just mean that all those licensing issues may be taken care of. That means that a major cost for the company will go down. But the thing is that when you dig deeper, the Peloton problems just pile on and on and on. One of the other things that had caused the company's profits to plunge was that when the surge of demand came back in the start of the pandemic, they had invested $100 million just to speed up the supply chain. If that wasn't bad enough, they had started to spend another $400 million on a new factory in Ohio. Their idea was that if the production is local, it'll be much easier and faster to get the machines to the customers buying them. The faster people received their shipments, the less time they'd spend dragging the delays through social media. With 2,800 employees down and 20% of the board gone too, it's no surprise that the stock wasn't doing very well. On top of that, rumors of a takeover by Nike or Amazon keep the stock volatile. Most people want to invest in a stable company, so it's possible that this aspect alone even keeps people from Peloton. Peloton might just be one of the fastest growing companies in the time that the entire world was shut down, but even with everything going right for them, their own decision-making got in the way, and it led to their downfall. Their entire story actually makes for a great business lesson. You should always pace yourself, always under-promise, even if you have the means to over-deliver. Make sure you're prepared for the public changing their opinion about you, and finally, figure out how to adapt in any situation. If you don't, your company might just end up being the next Peloton. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this video. What did you think about the crazy success and subsequent fall of Peloton? Did you expect things to turn out like this? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like it. If you want to grow your own e-commerce business, check us out at iwdagency.com and start your journey to success today. We'll see you next time.